Hey everybody, this is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority. The number to call in is 313-272-5600. You can also see me live right now on Facebook Live. That's my strategic healing page. And so if you have some questions, you can send in some questions or you can type in some questions, but I got some questions here. We're talking about health. We're talking about natural health, which is, there's natural health and there's unnatural health. Now, the other health system I don't think is called unnatural, but, what defines natural? There's actually legal terminology of what that means, but it's called colloquial. Middle America or anyone all over the world, when you say natural, what do you mean? You mean that it came from the ground, or it came from a plant, or it was once living thing. It's not man-made, man-made in the sense of, now, if you're going to make food, you can make man-made food because man's making it, meaning you're preparing it or something like that. But was the ingredients prepared in a lab? Was it, like, for instance, pharmaceuticals, or let's say the drugs and also food additives, because food additives are drugs. So the thing that makes a strawberry color, or the thing that tastes like strawberry, the vanillin or something like that, these are made from what's called carbon molecules that are derived from what's called coal tar derivatives. So the strawberry taste has no relationship to strawberry whatsoever. It's the strawberry in your brain. It's tricking, and it's using those chemicals, these neurotransmitters, to turn on the strawberry receptor tasting bud, right? But it's being done by what's called coal tar derivatives, meaning came from petroleum products. It came from coal in the ground, which is, you can't eat coal. If you ate raw coal, or you ate oil, or you drank natural gas or something, you would die. It would kill you. They're using it to just get the carbon molecules. And the carbon molecules can then be arranged together, kind of like puzzle pieces, to go into your body and fit into these little parking sites along the cell. And that's what then triggers your brain. So you can easily, like, for instance, when a person's having brain surgery, you can poke around and they can go, oh, my right finger is moving, but you can also say, you can make them smell strawberries, you can make them smell raspberries, you can make them taste other things, you can make them hear things, all of these things, because what's really our experience is really just all neurology, meaning it's all kind of in our brain. Now, but that means that our brain is not unnatural. Now, it would be great. So when we taste strawberry from a real strawberry, okay, these things are being triggered. But what's also happening is, as it's going into your body, it's also the building blocks for your body. So it has natural vitamin C. It has all of these different things. Whereas the things that are artificial, not natural, what they are is they literally are just a toxin that your body then has to go, okay, you did what you did. You made me taste strawberry, but now what do I do with you? It's a piece of garbage. And frankly, it's like a piece of garbage that's like a radioactive plutonium that as you hold it, it's destroying things all around it. That's what toxins are. And in particular, they have to be, handled by our liver and things like that. But the petroleum products in particular, most of which, like I said, all the drugs, all of the artificial flavors, all of the perfumes that we put on our body, all of the dyes, all of these things, they have to be detoxified and eliminated. Otherwise, they create damage. But one of the unique things about the petroleum products, of which, again, we talk about plastics and bisphenol A and all of these things, that we're in a soup. Microplastics, we are in a soup. The animals are in a soup, we are in a soup. Where, when our body detoxifies something, it would be like, for instance, when you make garbage, you take the label off and then you throw it away, right? And then it goes somewhere else, and it goes out of the body, out of the house. Not the petroleum products. The petroleum products in particular have what's called half-lives, which is they break down into another structure that then your body, then it gets pulled back in. So it's like as if somebody went out to the garbage, like your grandpa went out to the curb and said, hey, I don't want that to go. And he brings it back in the house. He takes a couple things off of it, but he brings it back in the house. Well, now it has to deal with it again, and your body detoxifies it. So it's as if most of the petroleum products is when they break down in the body, they have multiple half-lives. So it's as if grandpa pulls it in from the the curb 5 times and it stays in the house. And let's say it's a stinky dead fish. It's going to stink up the joint. It's going to cause problems inside. And that's what these petroleum products do. That's what unnatural things do, especially these carbon-based molecules. Now, here's the other problem, is when they get broken down, the puzzle piece that they break down to is overwhelmingly a estrogen, basically it's an estrogen puzzle piece, meaning it is the shape. Remember that little game that we played as a kid where you had to put the right blocks in. The one round one goes in the square one and the star one. That's what neurotransmitters are. Is there's the mechanical shape, and then they also deliver their payload when they go into the cell. So it's like plugging in a USB drive, meaning it's putting in a disk inside of your cell, and then that disk then makes this movie play, or it makes that. That's very much akin to what our body is. But the problem is that the petroleum products, when they break down into multiple half-lives, their half-lives are estrogen, meaning they're not true estrogen, but they fit into the estrogen receptor sites. And so they block true estrogen, and then they overstimulate the cell structure to be on as if it's believing it has estrogens in it. Now, the problem with estrogens is if we have too many estrogen receptors that are filled, whether you are a female or a male, you are going to be stimulated to do what high levels of estrogen does, which is grow more tissues. In a woman, it grows a baby, and in a male, it will start to grow breasts, and it will start to develop female traits and others, because it's just these hormones. We know that, for instance, if you change your pH at certain times, you can, when you are conceiving a baby, you can actually, animals do this and humans can do this, which is you can alter whether it will become a male or a female based upon some of these chemical signals at the time of conception. Okay? So what that means is our bodies, and we know this is true because in California and all over the world, but they've been what you call the colleges, the biology colleges out there, whether it be Stanford or MIT or whatever, when they're doing biology classes, what they do is they send students out there, as well as the government tests this, and everybody tests this, which is they net fish. And they do this all over the world because they want to see what's in the fish. They want to see the level of fish. They want to see what's the health of fish, because the level of health in the ocean it's a good indicator. It's a canary in the coal mine. It's a good indicator of what's happening to, same thing with frogs, when they test frogs. And over the past, really it's been 40 or 50 years, but it's really gotten worse and worse, is what they've noticed is when they bring the fish in or test the frogs in the pond, 80% in certain sections, and now it's kind of all over the place, 80% of the animals that they bring in, when they just test them for their sex, they're female. So there's 80 to 20 split, and that's not usually it's a 50-50. Usually in some places it's actually upwards over 90%, which is it's making more females being born, which is overwhelming even the male population, and you got to have a male to fertilize a female. And then it also is changing some traits even in the male. But what it is it's just a wash of it's a toxic hormonal storm out there. And it's all over the place. It's in the air that we breathe. Now, okay, what do we do to fix this? Now that we know that, and it really is this modern life, and I said the big main thing is all these petroleum products. There are things that we can do to pull these toxins out. Number one, we can strengthen our liver, to get our liver to not be so damaged by this, because if it's going to have to detoxify these things 5-6 times before it finally gets out, the stronger that it is, the more it's able to do that. We can also put some compounds into the body that will suck these things up rather than your liver, and trap them in your feces and in your urine and in your sweat, so that it can be detoxified and taken out of your body. So it doesn't even have to go through the liver. The compounds there's a bentonite clay, a zeolite. These are these clays. These are these dirts that you can swallow that we Particularly, they use them in the animal industry as well as human industry because it protects them from damage of infection and all kinds of other things. But also the Japanese and the Asians found this, which is seaweed. Seaweed, which has high levels of iodine in it as well, natural iodine from the sea. Seaweed, like bladderwrack and kelp, and what it does is, especially these xenoestrogens. Xeno means alien, like xenomorphic, so it means alien estrogens. And that's what these compounds are. These toxins that are in the world are literally alien estrogens. They are wolves in sheep's clothing. They're not really estrogen. They just fit that puzzle piece. So the seaweed, which we can take in a capsule, we as Americans, we don't eat the seaweed very much. But the Japanese, that's why the Japanese women in Tokyo literally have some of the lowest, for a very, very developed toxic, like in Tokyo is extremely toxic. There's so much dirty pollution and stuff, and especially these petrochemicals. But the Japanese females have the lowest incidences of breast cancer and uterine cancer than anywhere else in the world. And we know that it's because of all of the seaweed that they consume. So we can take seaweed as actually a supplement. We can eat it. Seaweed salad that we eat at the sushi place, or when they wrap it, that works. Or these little seaweed stacks that you can get at, instead of a potato chip, it's dehydrated seaweed with sea salt on it. They're crunchy. They taste really good. A lot of people even go, ooh, seaweed. You give it to them, and they're like, yum, this is really good. You can eat those. They're very, very good in terms of quenching these very, very specific toxins that have, in our modern world, are really changing the dynamic of just human biology and animal biology. But knowing the tools to use, you can change this around and you can fix this. So if you got, for instance, where does this really come into play? Is people that have, for instance, say breast cancer in their family, rather than going and voluntarily having your breast removed, which is a number of people have done, or what we call the Angelina Jolie effect, could you change this even in your DNA internally? Could you cut the cancer out of your body before it even forms, rather than just cutting the tissue out? Yes, and that's why it is the breast tissue and the uterine tissue, as well as the males, the prostate and the testicles. They're similar organs. I'll remind you, Montel Williams actually had breast cancer because males have mammary glands. They're undeveloped, but they're there. We have breast tissue, and it was overstimulated by these estrogens, these xenoestrogens. And when we bring things to rebalance this, it can fix it. And literally we can, for instance, if you have this in your family history, it kind of acts like a curse on your mind. It's like, if people that I grew up with their dad died from a heart attack and their grandfather died from a heart attack before they reached 50 and blah, blah, blah. You get the son who's 20 some years old and he goes, this is my lot in life. This is what's going to happen to me, and it's almost like a curse. And it really, especially when we understand how our neurophysiology and our brain and everything works, it's like putting pins in your voodoo doll. You can literally bring this into manifestation because you fear it. But it's also because, what did we not know about Grandpa and his dad? They had high levels, they worked in a garage or something like that, or their particular genetics is they were very, very susceptible to the estrogen type of dominance. Or for instance, with the blood things is they had too much deposition. They had too much cholesterol, and it wasn't the cholesterol that were forming. They didn't have the right types of cholesterol that ate up the bad cholesterol. So for each person, whatever you come into, even with your genetics, it's not a curse. What it really is just an eagle eye on what you should keep an eye on. It's just as simple as just like if you are the very pale-skinned redhead ginger, and I think it's actually Ginger Day, National Kiss a Ginger Day, is, they cannot go to the beach the same way as, let's say, a Mediterranean person. They can, but they better be covered up, and they better take multiple days to get used to it. Otherwise, it's going to burn them horribly because their system has not developed a response to that. These internal mechanisms of pre-diabeticalism, these internal mechanisms of how much antioxidants we produce, all these different types of things. That's why you can have people that go, my grandpa lived to 110 and he smoked every day and drank and everything like that. And he was fine. Well, it's not an anomaly. He just has high levels of antioxidants that his body produces and low levels of inflammation because he has a very, very good insulin response. But you get people that gain weight just by looking at something, or you get people that get the congested heart failure, or get swollen ankles all the time, or things like that, or get the red face, get the red nose, which you could see that's probably like their heart looks like that, like the W.C. Fields. The things that he suffered from and died from was because he was consuming these things that his genetics said, you really shouldn't be doing this, and you should be doing the opposite. You should have higher levels of these different types of things. We didn't know a lot of these things, but there was the Asians that knew this. They were the Ayurvedics that knew this thousands of years ago, that, again, the Indian doctor would have looked at that guy and go, you don't drink this. You're not supposed to, don't do that, right? Because we've seen this. We've known this over and over. You got to go eat that. You got to go do this. And it's not just now that we're getting around to it, even the science of it. And so this is, we've got answers to all of this stuff. And so this is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority. If you want to call into the show, it's 313-272-5600. And you want to go and see me. You can always go back and watch these shows because they are recorded on my Facebook page. It's Facebook Live, and then I put that on my YouTube channel, which is, my YouTube is Jason Eagle QRA. That's a Q and an R and an A. That stands for quantum reflex analysis. Quantum, meaning this is the quantum field. This is quantum mechanics. This is quantum biology, which is, that means like now we are in La La Land. Now we are into Alice in the Mirror. Now we're in Oz. And when we understand true physiology and things like especially when we get deep into really what's called the subatomic world, our body is made out of atoms, molecules and atoms and organs and all this other stuff. But each molecule is made out of these individual atoms. But these atoms are not really there. They are all just these vibrating waves of frequency. And so tell me when, it's like, how many times can you cut a thing in half? Forever and ever, as long as there's an instrument big enough to cut what's small enough. And it's, so that's what's really operating everything. Everything is these waves of energy. But there's all kinds of things that you can do to measure this energy, as well as if your energy is low, you can build up this energy. So Jason Eagle, 313-272-5600. Let me go into one of these questions, which is, I got a person that said a garden. Okay. So what is the natural trajectory of this life in terms of, okay, if you were eating junky, eating regular sad American diet, the standard American diet is sad, it really is. And so it's all these make-believe foods and things like that. And you didn't know any better, and you were raised by a Betty Crocker, mother that was Kraft, this and that. Okay, but now you get a little bit smarter, and then I'm not going to go to that fast food place anymore. And then I'm going to start, making my own food. And then I'm going to start shopping at a better place. And then I'm going to stop, start going to organic and then Whole Foods. But then now I'm going to go to the farmer's market. But now here's the ultimate trajectory, which is fix it yourself, grow your own food. No person can make food, and food is a supplement and it's an energy, any better than you can. Because, and people go, oh, I don't have a green thumb. This is dumb easy. You can really do it if you just follow some good keys. But again, you put your own energy to it. You sing to those plants, you talk to them, they know you, and there's a relationship. But again, you put minerals, so the first thing with it, if you're going to start a garden, and people, the old way of getting a rototiller and busting up the ground, don't do that anymore. It's a waste of time, and you can make better soil by doing what's called a raised garden bed. Now you can get, it's Home Depot, I think Home Depot sells them, or it might be Lowe's, but I think it's Home Depot. You can go into the section where they have like paving bricks and stuff like that. They make these special bricks that literally are a certain shape, and then it has a hole down the middle, and these are for building garden beds. I found those that the best way, if you have a good enough space, you buy these blocks, and then wood fits in between them, and you can design whichever shape you want just by cutting the wood. But you like put like 2x6s or even 2x4s, but you put 2x6s, like two 2x6s that's stacked within these slots, and then they're linked together, and then you put not a grounding rod, but a rebar. So you buy like a 4-foot section of rebar, and you pound that into the ground, and then you put these drill holes, and you put 2x4s on top of it, and it locks it in, so that you can then throw soil in there. And you can buy the soil, but you can make your own soil, which is throw all of your grass clippings and throw wood shavings and wood chips at the bottom. I like to do what's called lasagna gardening, which is you layer it like lasagna. You can actually put a layer of cardboard at the bottom so that the weeds don't grow up. Because this is a way, the thing that really is most difficult for people growing is actually maintaining it. It's the weeds. Weeds are a problem. So this gives you the ability to put in your own soil, put some compost, and then you're also going to put some seaweed in there. You can get liquid seed. You can go to these grow stores that have just wonderful bagged up compost that literally comes from ancient forest. You put peat moss in there so you get the humic and fulvic acids, and then you buy some heirloom seeds, which you can get them online, and you just start growing. And you water them, and you put there's this other mineral that I really like. It's called azomite, which is, you can get it at a garden store. You can get it Uncle Luke's. They sell it in bags, and it's volcanic minerals. And what it does is just restoring the minerals. Dr. Marshall used to tell the story, which is, and I just heard this too, which is, okay, if you ate a can of, let's say, peaches, good organic peaches, right, now, as opposed to some good organic peaches, which everything was organic, let's say 100 years ago, how many cans of peaches would you have to eat to equal how much nutrition, especially the antioxidants? You would have to eat, I think you said it's something like 81 cans of spinach, or 81 cans of peaches, or anything you could grow to match the amount of antioxidants and nutrients that are in there. Even if it was 20, that's unbelievable. Now, that's because the peaches and stuff that we're eating, or the tomatoes, are grown in this soil that has been over-farmed, and they've not really put the minerals back in. So you put the minerals back in, and you grow it inside there. Now the minerals go into the vegetable. I'm going to come back to this one. I've got more to say about that, but I do have a call right now. So let's go ahead. Go ahead, caller. What do you got going on? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Salivary gland. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Okay. Yes. Uh-huh. Well, is it on one side? Because you have like lymph nodes in the throat, and you have one on one side and one. So is it only on one side? Okay. Okay. And so the very first thing that I would think about there is, number one, teeth, because your teeth reflex in there. Because your teeth, if you got a teeth infection, or you, let's say, have a leaking restoration, meaning an old filling that has gotten a crack in it and it's starting to bruise some bacteria in there, that's going to drain into the lymph node, because the lymph nodes are where the infection fighting stuff comes. So when we have a swollen lymph node, it's because there's a war going on there. And what's what the lymph node does is it processes the dead bodies of, like, our lymph tissue, or white blood cells, macrophages. What they are is essentially like a soldier that throws his body on top of the hand grenade that blows up, but it saves everybody else around it. So it tells us that we have some infection. So whether it be in a tooth, that would be the first thing to look, especially kind of like in the lower jaw. But it also could be inner ear, it could be sinuses. I've seen people with a polyp, meaning a polyp inside one of your nasal cavities, can then back that up, and then it starts to... And the reason that he said sucking on something sour is because sometimes we can get stones in there. So like your tonsils, you can get what's called tonsil stones. You can also get salivary, and then there's also the parotid gland. The parotid gland, which is up in the cheek. Now, these are all probiotics. These are all these glands. So now, so he said he thought it was the salivary gland that was jammed. Yep. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay, so it's a stone. Okay. Yep. No, no, yeah, at first they didn't really put you on alarms like that. They're probably going to want you to come back in. Maybe they want to do a biopsy, but I would first go to a dentist. I would first, and then there's a dentist that I really like. I got a bunch of dentists that do a bunch of different stuff, but sometimes the infection is really hard to see unless you have a dentist that has what's called a cone beam scan. Dr. Eric Taylor, who he's in Rochester Hills, Dr. Eric Taylor, he has a cone beam scan. And what he does is a lot of times when they have a dentist that does an x-ray and they go, oh, it looks fine, they're only looking at the root tip. But we can have it deep inside the bone, past what's called the apex. And unless you have the expensive x-ray, they can't see that. So the first place I would suspect is that, especially since it's on the one side, is it something local there? Because if this is a generalized infection, it's going to be both lymph nodes. So if you have a generalized infection throughout the whole body, you're going to have the nodes under your throat. You're also going to have it in, for instance, on your armpits and in your groin and stuff like that. This is just that one. Now, you said that they saw the stone, but again, what's making the stone grow? You really want to go to the source of it. So the first thing, like I said, is go to this dentist and have him do an x-ray, especially the cone beam scan in that quadrant, and then they'll be able to tell you if it's coming. Because if it's coming from the tooth, then you get the infection out of the tooth, and then now it will stop it growing, and then you'll see it shrink, and then you'll see it go away. So, yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay. So yeah, okay, I was going to recommend a chiropractor. Did your chiropractor do any x-rays and did they look at the C1? And you have to do what's called an open mouth, AP open mouth, in order to see where C1, the axis and the atlas is. And if your axis and atlas is out, it's going to be keep reflexing to that. And that's a really hard one to get. But it's also, too, it could be that damage did created what's called an interference field, meaning it's your magnetic field that's blown out. And so no amount of chiropractic is going to put it back in place and keep it in place. So that's what I do, which is the mud packs, which is we can find, let's say you blew a fuse there, because that jaw, if you get hit in the jaw, the shearing forces go right to that. So you can have scar tissue that's forming along right at C1, and that's where, as your brainstem comes out, it's starting to choke on. And it can also be affecting the vagus nerve right there, which is you tend to get more anxious. Your heart rate can be affected. You can start to have elevated heart pressure. It's just your neck can be out of place. But again, if the chiropractor's worked on it and can't, either didn't see it or is not really moving it, it's the energetic field that if there's a hole there, you put the field back on, now it's able to move back in place and stay in place. So this could be, so you can come see me to do that too. But I would start first with, in the hierarchy of this, start with the most damaging thing, which is infection first, which is, so go get the teeth looked at. And then we could, again, because if this neck is really, this could be what's driving all of it. Because that, if you got a nerve that's being impinged, especially deep in that neck area, it's sending the signal that's causing you to grow this anomaly. So again, where do I go to the source? Which do I go to? And sometimes the most powerful things are the most invisible things, the most non-touchable things, the things that now we don't even have the equipment to see it. But we've got the energy eyes, which are you can use your own neurologic field to test your own field. And that's what QRA is. So, and I've treated this with other people too. And we've been successful with parotid stones and as well as tonsil stones and other things like this. And again, it's if it's you got two of anything and it's one, you really look at the energetic field first, and you look at because it's the code. It's what your brain is growing. Your brain is making you grow that for some reason. Yep. Yep. Yeah, because if it is like say if it's a dead root or something like that, no amount of supplements or what I will do, if the snail is dead in its shell, it's stinking up the joint and it's got to be pulled, and the only way to do that is through the dentistry, which is they have to cut it open or extract it or whatever they have to do. But you don't want to do that just willy-nilly. You have to first determine what needs to be done. Sometimes you find that he can do a procedure which is called a flap, which is they don't have to remove let's say it's a bad root canal, but it's past the tip of the root canal deep in the bone. They can do what's called a flap, which is they cut the gum open, and then they instead of drilling it now with an actual physical drill, they use what's called a water laser, which is a water jet plus a laser. And the laser will clean it out and biostimulate it, meaning it will make it grow healthy and it will make it regenerate, but it will get that infection out of there. Then they close it back up and you're good to go. So, infection. Oh yeah, yeah. Because see, what your body, especially the dental, because the dental infection, what it does is it cuts off the blood flow in that area, and so that it stops it from going directly. A doctor would say, if you got an infection, you're going to see it. No, not necessarily. When you have deep infection, and again, where is it putting it? It's putting it into your salivary gland. It's depositing it in your stone. So if they were to do a biopsy of the stone, this is where they would see the dead bodies of the stuff. That's where they would see this infection, and that your body is what's called encapsulating it and turning and building a calcium fortress around it in order to cage it so that it doesn't go into the bloodstream. Okay, so especially, and that's what our dental infection does. Is our body is really, because it's that close to your brain, and so your body is very, very smart in terms of containing infection. But again, if it's a dead, go ahead. No, no, no. You can have, again, it's not even about, you could have deeply buried infection that if it's a dead root or it's a root canal tooth, you're not going to feel it. It doesn't feel painful at all, especially if it's higher up in the cheek. Or if you're talking about it's on the salivary gland, that's usually in the mandible, so it's deep inside that jawbone, and you won't feel it, but it is draining directly into the salivary gland, and so again, detoxes sometimes helps with these things, but a detox, it's like sparing Febreze in the air with a dead fish in the garbage can. Like it's best to get that fish out of the garbage can. So, yep. Yeah, thanks for your call, and I really appreciate it. And call me back and let me know. And I'm probably going to be seeing you because, this sounds, and again, and I'm not saying that the doctors are not right in terms of doing a biopsy and maybe even sometimes doing, for instance, surgery on this one, but you want to measure 20 times and cut once, because you cannot take back a surgery. And sometimes these are things that are in their realm that they wouldn't think to think of that. A lot of doctors with, like, for instance, eye problems, like the ophthalmologist, doesn't really, he's not the ear, nose, and throat guy, and so he doesn't know that your, like, say, chronic eye problems or even the cataracts in this eye can be coming from a nasal infection, which is, it's right there. But see, they do this thing and I do, and they don't know, and they don't interface. But that's my job. That's what I do, is I put it all together. So, good deal. Thank you. Yeah, spread the word. Get people listening to me and get some more questions. And hey, like I said, I look forward to hearing from you on the progress, because I know you'll get better. I know that you will get better because you already are over the hump of what do I do about this, and you now are you're going to look in that area, and maybe it's not a tooth, but I'm going to tell you there's probably a tooth there that's reflexing there. Yeah, good, perfect. Well, you'll get it. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, talk to you later. Bye bye. All right, everybody, we're back, and I have to correct people. I'm not a doctor. This is, and I, I will tell you, it's probably over the years, it's just like an honorary title. People just can't help call me doctor, but I'm not a doctor. I am Jason Eagle, QRA LMT. I'm a licensed massage therapist, and I am a referral quantum reflex analysis practitioner, and that's it. But that's enough, because if you listen to what I have to say, and I have 25 years of experience, that's enough. I have people that have not wanted to come to me because I didn't have the letters behind my name. So be it. I'm okay with that. But they end up coming back because it's like, you really know what you're talking about. And I'm natural. I will point you back to nature, nature, your internal nature. And it's everything for your health and healing is in this world around you. The plants, the animals, everything, the air, the grounding field, the magnetic field of the ground, the what's coming from the sun, what's coming in the ether, all of this stuff, the waves that the earth is putting out, which is called the Schumann resonance. We have Hartmann waves, Schumann waves, standing waves, which are there's worlds, invisible worlds all around us. Now there's also harmful invisible worlds, which is electromagnetic frequencies, which come like this blue light. This blue light, I just had a guy come in today that bought some melatonin, and it's not just to help fall asleep. It's because our brains, our modern brains, are being hacked by these lights, in particular fluorescent lights, L.E.D, light emitting diodes. Yes, they save energy in terms of they don't cost and they last longer. It's not really true. I've had them not last as long. But and then also your computer screens, they are emitting a blue light, and it's a flicker. It's a flicker rate. So the candle flicker that you used to look at, or the fire, that's not a flicker, and it's not a bit rate. It's not like 25, like when you're watching a TV, it's 25 frames per second or 60 frames per second. Your brain perceives that. It's this on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. And so when they say like this can induce epilepsy in certain children, it does it to everybody. We all have a certain level of panic that is instilled into our brain because of this environment. There are these radio waves that are going through us and all that. But the antidote to this is God never created something, and God never gave us, the source never gave us, nothing was created, and nothing that is a negative is not for our own good. It is for our own good. But see, the antidote is there, the real world is there. So like I was telling him, to fix your brain, to fix your circadian rhythms, which is when you get jet lag and you fly over to, China in a day, you're asleep at the time when you should be awake and awake when you should be, and it takes you a couple days for your brain to catch up. Well, that's because of the levels of melatonin. So it's your body time clock, your internal time clock. And when we produce melatonin in our brain as we sleep, melatonin, because our eyes are closed and we are in this REM state sleep, is with good sleep, we secrete our own melatonin. We build up melatonin levels. Then when we wake up, the crack of dawn, and our eye sees the light, it then converts melatonin into serotonin. Serotonin is the happy drug. Serotonin is just, I feel good. So people with depression and things like that, which is they go on SSRIs, which is called a serotonin reuptake. You're not going to produce more, but you're going to recycle it. You're going to, instead of throwing it out, you're going to use it over and over and over again. And people that have some mental problems and anxiety problems, it helps. But could you produce more serotonin? Yeah, or better yet, could you stop choking and throwing the serotonin out? Yes, and that's through melatonin. So by taking melatonin, it helps us to fall asleep. It helps our brain work better. But it also, the melatonin rewires our brain back to the natural world of, especially it unhacks what these lights and these flickers are doing to us. So the flicker is scrambling our brain, but the melatonin can help to then rewire our brain back to the natural world. I also recommend people, for instance, if you spend a lot of time on a computer, get off that computer at least 3 hours before you go to bed, and maybe even go into a dark room and light a candle. Candle in the wind, blah, blah, blah. Because what it's doing is, and you just stare at that candle. You don't stare at it, just kind of look at it. Or you can just be in the room with the candle. It's not going to burn your eye. Don't get too close to it. But what it does is that light, or even sitting by the fireplace. That's why people sit and they tell stories around the fire, and because it's like a meditative wave where your brain gets back into what life has always been and what life was meant to be, and how your brain waves are supposed to be. And many of us are, even the young kids, the millennials, they're a little crazy, and they were raised with this stuff, and get those screens away from them, get them off those screens, right? Get them back to real nature, get them out in the sun, get them, with some fireplace and stuff like that. So you can tactically use the real world to unwind the damage of what this modern world has done. And that being said, let me go back to this gardening, okay? Now, people say, I live in, the question was, I want to start a garden. That's the best. Grow your own food. Now, you don't have to grow all of your own food, but just, a salad every day, or some herbs that you throw onto your food. If you grow even just a sprinkle of your own basil and rosemary or mint or whatever, some chives, even just a sprinkle that goes onto, most of your food, it's grown in these super nutrients that you fill it with these minerals in particular. And the sea-derived minerals and the old volcanic minerals that's the master. That's the old world. And it rebuilds the genetics of the plant, and the plants suck these things up. And they also, when they have good minerals, then what they do with the sunshine is they actually store more what's called biophotonics, meaning they store little bits of light. So when you eat a plant that is super well grown, and it's even when you eat a plant that's well grown by you, it emits this plasma energy that is literally, this is like the Star Wars Jedi, and it goes into your body and it fills you with light. The more light that you have, the more living that a plant is, and the more it's able to convert sunlight energy into energy for itself, but also store packets of biophotonic emissions into the plant structure or animal structure. So good pasture-raised eggs are high level. Okay, people go, I don't know if I'm understand you, or what you're talking about. Okay, we know that antioxidants, which come from plants that are what they say, eat the rainbow. So plants that are very vibrant in colors, carrots and pomegranates and grapes and strawberries, and then even the red meat and ostrich meat, or whatever, the richer color, the more, or let's say eggs that have really, really dark yolk, like orange yolk, pasture raised, animals that are free range and are given extra minerals and stuff like that. The amount of what's called antioxidants that are inside this structure, when we take them inside our body, it rebuilds the damage inside of our body, and it actually reverses age, because age is not time. Age is really just not repairing from damage. And if you can repair from the damage that you have, then you can reverse age. You can slow the aging process down, and you can actually reverse age. This is true. And so growing your own plants, you are able to infuse this life into it, these minerals, and all these other factors that are into it. So, like I said, going back to, if you have some land out in the backyard, don't rototill, build these raised beds. If you all, like, let's say you live in New York or somewhere and you have a patio, there are these systems where these hydroponic systems where they actually put real soil in them, but they actually have pumps where you pour the water out of the center. They're made out of, I just saw one where it's these, like it's a tower, and it's made out of plastic that's reclaimed from the sea. So old bottles and old nets. You know, they make clothes, they make shoes out of this. So you want to help the environment, help your own internal environment. Buy one of these things, put it on your back porch, or you can put it inside in the wintertime here in Michigan. Put it somewhere by a window, and you can grow your salad and grow it with all of these nutrients that are in the water and in the soil and stuff like that. And it's easy. You just don't know how to do it. They have ones where they have automatic waterers and stuff like that. That literally, it's just stupid easy. You don't have to weed at all. You just plant the seed, turn it on, let it go. Make sure you put the nutrients in every once in a while. Check up on it, and then just start cutting things off and put it in your food. And oh my goodness, it's amazing. And so even these supplements that I sell, I would love to get like Dr. Marshall used to say this, he would love to get himself out of business, which is this was his passion, which was actually to create a farm, that these supplements were fixing these holes. But can we get people to grow their own food and make these supplements and then raise children on this stuff? So now we're coming up on the 46 mark. We're getting ready to, let me do this. Let's take a commercial and I'll be right back. Okay?
How long have you been struggling with your health issues? Are you still living in pain? What kind of skin irritations do you have? Eczema, rashes, acne? Is your energy level in the basement? Are you trying to cope with depression or anxiety? Is your tummy always upset? If your body could talk to you, what would it tell you? Well, it does talk to you. It's the listening part that's tricky, but not with the amazing biocommunication technique, QRA, quantum reflex analysis, the highly effective system by which your body can communicate its true needs. Jason Eagle of Strategic Healing in Auburn Hills is your natural health authority, and he is the expert in using QRA to get to the root of your health issues, then develop the plan to get you back to feeling great again. Find out what's really happening with your body with your in-depth QRA evaluation with Jason Eagle. Call 734-985-5891 for your appointment with Jason at Strategic Healing in Auburn Hills. It'll change your life for the better. Call 734-985-5891 today.
All right, everybody, we're back. If you want to call into the show, it's 313-272-5600. You can see me on my Facebook Live. That's Strategic Healing, Facebook. We are going to get into lightning round. I talked a lot on these. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get a bunch of questions in as much as I can. We're going to start with number one. I had a person that said they're long plane ride and they are concerned about swelling in the legs and blood clots. But in particular, their feet swell. You have a lot of people that say that this happens. Number one, that indicates that we have poor adrenals. And so if you know that before ahead of time you're going to go flying and you tend to have these where the legs swell and stuff like that, number one, start fixing your adrenals, fixing your water. Make sure you're fully dehydrated and drink some salt. Maybe take like a full, if you're, average adult, it's about a full teaspoon of sea salt per day. That's going to be mixed in through, and just a good Mediterranean sea salt that you can buy anywhere. Mixed in your food and your water. Drink extra water so that you're fully hydrated. And then you can get what's called TED hoses or what's called compression socks. And you can put those on before you get on the plane. Surgeons wear these when they stand there in like 18-hour surgeries and so that the blood doesn't pool down at their feet. I would also, if we have a concern about blood clots, there's some natural, very safe blood thinners, which is that one's it's called the Cardio. The Cardio ND, it's this fermented liquid that has all the original cardiotonic in it, and it will actually help to, without over thinning your blood, it will help to thin your blood well enough. But see, the TED hoses will keep you from getting the clots because the fluid doesn't pool down in there, and when the compression socks are on, it keeps the pressure up like squeezing a tube of toothpaste, so it can't go there. That's a good answer for that. Um, I have another question. What are the best fishes to eat? I want to eat fish. What is the best? Now, fish is very difficult for some people because of flavors. Well, now we get into the true answer is the ones that have the strongest flavors are really the ones that are best for you. So, the best fish would be anchovy, because what we're talking about, what's in fish? There's protein in fish, but the most important thing is the essential fatty acids. And then also we have the other thing, which is fish can have a lot of levels of mercury and toxins. So what is the best fish to get the most of the essential fatty acids and the least amount of toxins? It's the small fish like anchovies. Anchovies are very strong tasting, but you get people like anchovies on their pizza. You can use an anchovy paste. I recommend putting some anchovy paste, and let's say the Italians do this or the Greeks do this. Just put some anchovy paste in your pasta. Just add it to your regular pasta sauce, your red pasta sauce or whatever. Then we go up next to that would be sardines, like say even canned sardines. You get good organic, the biggest thing about is the can. So they make a really good bisphenol A free canned sardines, but canned sardines are good. You can, if you go to a good fish market, and there's nothing better than freshly cooked sardines. Those are amazing. Then we go up to the next one would be, let's say, mackerel. These are their fattiest fish. Mackerel, you can get canned mackerel, you can buy mackerel. These things, you have to have the flavor for them. But if you can push yourself, now we get up to the other stronger tasting is salmon. You want wild caught, even good canned salmon, all canned salmon like the Alaskan red sockeye. These comes from the Alaskan fisheries, and they are all either line caught. They're all wild caught. There are not farmed raised. So people go, if you want to buy frozen salmon, what's the best? You're never going to go wrong by doing canned salmon. And if you're going to buy it as, let's say, a frozen fish to cook salmon up, you do what's called wild caught. Then we go up to what's called, now as I'm getting the least, in this order as I'm going through, it's the ones that are the most fishy to the least fishy. Then we get up to what's called swai. Swai and tuna. Swai is a fish that you can find at like Asian markets. It comes from Vietnam and places like that. That's a really good, and they make them in these big steaks where you can actually make like a tuna steak or a salmon steak. Very, very good. Tuna in particular, like the red tuna steaks, not tuna, canned tuna. Not a big fan of canned tuna unless it's really, really good high source. So like the chicken of the sea, not too happy with that. Then we go up to orange roughy. Orange roughy is a white-fleshed, very mild-tasting deep-sea fish. The deeper, the cold waters, the deeper waters are going to be the best. And then we get up to cod. Now again, all of these fishes, it's best to not have them, like how often do I eat fried cod? Every once in a while, but you can do cod without the breading, without the frying, and it's really the breading that can create a lot of harmful in the deep frying. Cod we can bake cod and stuff like that with lemon and stuff like that. These are the best fishes to eat. And as I said, in the order, the smallest and the most oiliest are going to be your safest ones based upon, because they're not that big. The most dangerous fish in terms of mercury are the biggest predatory fish, which is the big tuna and the big salmon, or not so much salmon, but the big cod even too, because they're big. When they get big, they're big predatory fish, which means they eat a lot of little fish, so they can concentrate a lot of these toxins in their body. So those are the best fishes to eat. Then we get local fish, these freshwater fishes. Michigan's got, I don't care what they say about Lake Erie and should I trust some stuff in St. Clair? Yes, these freshwater lakes are so clean right now. Because of the zebra mussels and stuff like that the fish is very safe here in Michigan. The stream caught stuff, the lake caught stuff, lake trout, walleye, very healthy, very good. And walleye is actually a very fatty one too, very high in the essential fatty acids. Very good for you. Okay, we're gonna go to another one. Let me see. Okay. Got a person that was a question. Oh, okay. Bad back pain, shoulder pain, all of these types of pains of the body type of stuff. Forget it, I could talk about the anti-inflammatories, what internally, but what could we do on the external thing? Number one, always remember ice. If it's a contusion or if it's a back, meaning at your spine, it could be pain coming from the disc or the swelling on the nerve, and that's where you put ice on it. Now, if it's the muscle, when we can put heat on. Now, if the muscle is like bruised and red and inflamed, you put cold on it. But if the muscle is tight and achy, you put heat on it. Okay, so those are things that we can always do. Then let me talk to you about the world of what's called kinesiotape. Now, I am what's called a rock doc, meaning I've been trained to apply this kinesiotape. What is kinesiotape? If you watched, the athletes that have that black tape on them, or the blue tape, or the red tape, or like the girls that were the volleyball players back in 20 years ago that were wearing this weird taping on it. Michael Phelps, you see it has it. You can put tape on areas to repair damage. And the real secret of this one, and you can go and get it at CVS and stuff like that, the brand that I really recommend, or better yet, go to somebody who is trained in putting it on you. But I'm going to train you, this is very stupid easy, which is put an X on it. If you have an area of pain, you can buy kinesiotape or rock tape, and you can, so let's say on your shoulder, you can have someone help you or do it yourself, which is put a piece of tape where X marks the spot. And it can go either way. It can go up and down your arm or across your arm, whatever. But when you put this tape on it, it does a lifting effect. And in wound care, we found that if you do what's called negative pressure on a contusion or on deep scar tissue or something like that, it pulls blood flow in there, pulls lymphatic flow in there, and it heals it. Plus, it also causes what's called distraction principle, meaning in pain, what's called the gate theory in pain management or in pain understanding is just like when a person stubs their toe, they immediately, or hits their knee, you put your hand on it. Now, why would it's hurting? Why would I touch and put a hand on it? Because when you put stimulus, meaning light touch, on a thing that is sending signals of pain, the more non-pain stimulus that you put on something, it reduces the amount of pain. And so it's kind of like what they would say is if your pain, if like, you remember like the horse races where the horses are in the gates. So your pain, your stubbed toe is one horse and one gate. And that's all you see. And everyone just focuses on it. But if we load more horses, meaning a light touch or some cold or some stretch on it, it's these non-pain stimulus which tends to drown out the actual feeling of pain. And so it relieves pain by it's not tricking our nerves, but it's just giving our nerves stuff to focus on. Like the kids in the back seat who are bugging you, give them a puzzle. That'll shut them up for a little while. So kinesiotape is just something, whatever pain you have, you can literally put kinesiotape of an X on it, and 9 times out of 10, it really makes it feel better. You can leave it on for like 4 to 5 days. It will last in the shower, okay? Hey, you know what? This is another episode gone by. I can't believe it's an hour. I so look forward to you. Listen to me next time. Send me in some questions. And this is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority. Until next time, be healthy and be natural. And come back to me. All right? We'll see you. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Ask the Experts with Jason Eagle of Strategic Healing. Jason will help you live a pain-free,
Okay, Jason.
life naturally.
Cool. Thank you very much. You too. Bye-bye.
Creates a finely tuned and highly personalized program just for you that will get you back to living your best life. Get started today by calling 734-985-5891 to make your appointment, or go online to strategichealing.us. Strategic Healing is located at 2545 North Opdyke Road, Suite 106A in Auburn Hills. Ask the Experts with Jason Eagle of Strategic Healing can be heard every Wednesday at 1 p.m. right here on WRDT, the Word Station. The materials and information provided in this broadcast are for informational purposes only and are not intended for use as diagnosis, prevention, or treatment of a health or other problem, or as a substitute for consulting a licensed medical professional. Some concepts presented herein may be theoretical and have little or no scientific substantiation. Users are advised to conduct their own diligence.
AM560 is Detroit's market.
Okay, YouTube. Okay, Facebook. Okay, everybody. Okay, out there in the world. Thank you for watching me, and thank you for sticking with me, and send the questions in, and keep getting healthy. And so till next time, bye bye.